AFTV, Nick managed to get a convincing performance today, 4-0. Spoken to Turkish and he was saying it's still not fluid enough. What did you make of it, bro?
That don't matter. At the end of the day, we were grinding out performances beginning of the season with fairly flat, awful performances and grinding out results, 1-0, 2-0, things like that. And we're moving through the gears now. Second, third gear. Still not fourth, fifth gear. We're going to need that against Liverpool, City. But to play not very good first gear, second gear type of football, but to be winning 4-0 away from home, can't complain about those types of results. Do you know what I mean? It's not the finished product. But, not it doesn't matter, but we've got 4 or 5 players that are in for shouts of starting football out. Trossard, I know he's on the bench today, but out. Martinelli out, Thomas Partey out, Jurriën Timber, everybody's main man when it comes to pre-season, out. So 4-0 away from home with those key injuries is, we've got to celebrate that.
Listen, what did you make of the team news today? Because you've just mentioned some injuries. Players are now coming back, but we did see Eddie and Jesus starting again, but in the kind of positions that Jesus being left again, Eddie through the middle. I've been asking people their thoughts on it. What was yours today?
Listen, we have a balance of versatile players and specialists in the team for a reason. And that's the reason. Eddie Nketiah is a specialist striker. He's not a specialist goal scorer, but he is an out-and-out striker. Jesus is somebody that we know plays multiple positions. Trossard plays multiple positions. So when there's injuries, these guys are going to sit in different types of positions. That's always going to happen. I thought straight away that they're probably going to switch and invert, just like you'd expect Martinelli to do when Jesus is up top. So I wasn't too concerned. I did think that Nelson deserves to get some starts, especially in the league, especially games like this, where you'd expect us to win, so it's not too much of a risk. Maybe you're not going to throw him in to start against City. But then after the injury to Saka, maybe he does have to come in and start against City now. So, I did think it was more... I was more thinking that actually Nelson deserves to get a starting position more than why is Jesus starting out wide. That wasn't my major concern, because I did think that he'd do some underlapping and inverting and get himself on the score sheet at some point.
Listen, before we go to the front men and start to talk about the creativity today, let's talk about the goalkeeping situation quick, because Ramsdale had a fantastic performance midweek against Brentford, and Raya today, very, very convincing. Where do you stand on this at the moment?
I mean, look, at the moment, we've got 2 very good goalkeepers, and they're both playing very well. I think a lot of I'm not going to cause problems until I see problems. If I see them having a bust up in training, if I see someone arguing with the manager, then there's a problem. As it stands, we've got 2 very good goalkeepers. Both are playing very good football. Both have just kept clean sheets midweek and now. And so there's no issues. The issues are coming in our heads because we haven't seen it before. We haven't seen it work. We're not sure. But we'll deal with the issue when it comes up. At the moment, it's like saying, we've got 2 top strikers. We've got Gabby Jesus, who's considered a top striker, and we still want another top striker. We're not going to sit there and say, we've got 2 top strikers. What are we going to do? What a nonsense. Like, you know what I mean? Everyone's playing well. Everyone's happy. Let's keep it going. We don't want to have one and then we get an injury and then we're stuck. So let's just ride it out. Let's enjoy the ride.
Absolutely. Talk to me about who impressed you today on the pitch for Arsenal.
Martin Ødegaard, I was on the Saturday Football Show on DR Sports, and I was with Tosin, Arsenal fan, and he was saying, we need to have a conversation about Martin Ødegaard and dropping performances from him not being so great when he's not contributing to goals and different things like that. And then, he drops a great performance like that. We've got so many players that when it's their day, when it's clicking for them, they can take games by storm. Martin Ødegaard is one of them. Saka's one of them. Martinelli. And again, we've got some of those players that are out as well. Trossard coming back in, Reece Nelson, Fabio Vieira. We're creating such a great squad that on any given day, it can be anybody's moment. There are a couple of players that are behind. I'm sure we'll touch on Havertz and players like that. Those players are a little bit behind the curve. But hopefully, if everybody's, the goals are distributed across the team and distributed across the timeline as well, then it's good news. The first goal was 14 minutes in. The second one was 93 minutes in. So it wasn't just 2 or 3-0 up, a 10-minute spell that was good, and then we sit back. We were consistently playing well, or consistently scoring goals and being an attacking threat right the way across the 90 minutes in the whole game. So yeah, there's nothing really to. You can always unpick any performance, and look for areas that you can improve. But you know what? We're going into Man City next week. And with these types of games, hopefully form goes out the window. The last time we beat City was Community Shield. Okay, it was a draw in 90 minutes, but we would take that right now, realistically. That was Kai Havertz up top. We haven't even returned to that. That is still a viable option because it's how we beat them or drew with them last time and made it competitive. So, you know, there's nothing to complain about from any of these perspectives for me.
Listen, you spoke about him, Kai Havertz. A good penalty today. Really, really well taken penalty. And I think what was more impressive, Nick, was the fact that everybody was going over to him after he scored. And it proves that everyone's behind him, including the fan base. Yeah,
I mean, you know, when people criticise Kai Havertz, I don't think they're not with the team. I just think we praise players when they're good. We criticise players when they're bad. He's had a couple of stinkers. That's the truth. It's a bit of a worry. You know, I think our fans, they look 2 or 3 steps ahead of time sometimes. And so they're not worried about the criticism he's getting now. They're worried about how that's going to affect him later. But I think, first of all, it was a great team moment to pass the penalty over. Everybody wants to score goals. Of course they do. Martin Ødegaard, top scorer in midfielder. Bukayo Saka, real point to prove, the star boy. They're passing the penalty over to Kai Havertz. So clearly they're with him. And it was good management to put him into a game. I did think that Fabio Vieira deserved to start, but you know what? It's a good management to put him into a game where he can go and score, and you see how much it means to him. My problem with him is not anything technical; it's his body language. A bit like a Nicola Pepe. We're a very intense team, and he's the only person that drops the intensity in terms of chasing. You know, he barely chases the ball when it's there to be caught, let alone chasing lost causes. We've seen Nketiah chasing lost causes and trying to make things happen. But after that penalty, when he scored, you know, he was bombing down. The whole overall performance didn't lift, but the running lifted. You know, he got down the left wing, tried to cut it back to Nketiah. It was snuffed out. He tried to create a lot more, and you could see a big lift in him, even going to things like his social media. I know people will laugh at that and snub that, but we want to know that the player's in a real positive mental place and bring that into the game. So, you know, we have to see if he's going to be able to kick on from that and really lift his confidence. It's an easy goal. He got a penalty passed to him. Fair enough. But sometimes you need those little wins and then you can build on that.
Just lastly, a great positive result today. Don't get me wrong, but a little bit of a frustration and a worry or concern, I suppose, from Bukayo Saka. Do you think Mikel could have brought him off a bit earlier?
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with everyone with that. You know, it's difficult to see that. You know, we were screaming about that about 60 minutes in, saying, listen, we're 3-0 up, actually. We're at Bournemouth. Yeah, they haven't really offered too much against us. We can take him off. We now have players like Reece Nelson, Fabio Vieira, Emile Smith-Rowe, where if we take off Saka, the level drops, but not hugely, and we can rest him for another day. Thought it was a little bit naive and running, you know, just testing his luck a little bit there, Arteta. So that's the only issue. He's still an inexperienced manager. He needs to learn to rotate those players, and maybe Saka has to speak up. You know, maybe Saka has to, you know, be a bit of a voice and protect himself. And I'm not putting the blame on him, but say, actually, nah, get me off. It's that time. You know, we've seen Marcus Rashford's development hampered by having to inject himself with, you know, different things and get through games. We don't want to see the same thing with Saka. We all need to protect him.
Absolutely. Just lastly, we're going into the Manchester City game. We've obviously got Champions League first. Confident for this one in the Premier League?
Never. We get smoked by them in the league all the time. They have back-to-back losses for the first time in a year or over a year. They're going to be a wounded animal. Anything can happen.
Fair play. Big up, Nick.